Hey everybody, what kind of backdrop is this? It's incredible. It's all I can tell you. I'm down here in Flagler Beach, actually just a little bit north in a place called Beverly Beach, and I am recovering from hernia surgery. My wife picked this location, which is one of my favorites, and apparently when I was at Barber racing, had a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort. So I got back to East Tennessee, and my local doctor, who's a really good friend of mine, set me up, had the surgery done. I feel good. I'm looking forward to get back to racing again and doing all the crazy things we do. Now, this next video that's part of this is really kind of interesting. It's inspirational. It's an interview that someone did with me about 20 years ago. Let's see, it was 2005, I think, and it's got a neat message behind it. It's different, but it was primarily from 2000 and back, my life. So it's a short little life story and some trials and tribulations, I guess you could say, that I went through. But I hope you enjoy it. I appreciate you taking the time to watch my videos. So let me know what you think of it.
There's always going to be a part of me that stays connected to the diving world. Maybe not from a physical standpoint, but certainly an emotional one, especially what I've been through over the last 5 years. Nevertheless, if I wanted to get back into business, I can't, because the injury that I suffered is the kind that ended my career. But you know what? I've been able to travel all over the world. I've been able to dive in places where nobody's ever been. I've been able to see different cultures. You know, those are the kind of things that only a handful of people ever get to see in a lifetime. But the other part of me says, with all the technology, with all the research, with all the information that we have at our fingertips, how could a defective product be able to enter the marketplace and negatively affect so many lives as the product that caused my injury? It's a tough situation, and it really saddens me. I mean, I'm lucky to even be here. That product could have paralyzed me, or it even could have killed me. But I've still got to be thankful for my family and friends, because these people stood by me through some incredibly tough times. And more than anything, I redefined my strengths and weaknesses. So I'm back. But you know what? I'm not the same Mitch. I mean, I try to be, but there's a few little differences in me, and I'm still trying to overcome these little things. But that's just what makes life so exciting, and I'm going to battle every single bit of the way. But don't think I've completely forgotten about my past. There were so many big moments in my career. I especially like working with the 3D IMAX and Shark Week. Those gave me an opportunity to work with one of the best cinematographers in the business, in Al Giddings. Giddings actually played a big part in some of the greatest underwater movies ever created. But I guess if you think about movies that Giddings had anything to do with, you've got to think about the Titanic. This movie is the all-time biggest grosser at the box office with over $1.5 billion. You can add the next 3 biggest grossing movies of all times together, and they still don't add up to what the Titanic has done. Well, now that I've made all of this stuff so huge, the stuff that I've done, boy, it's going to pale in comparison. But nevertheless, these projects are immense in size. If I think about the way that we used to get these started, it was hysterical. First, we had to charter a C-130 transport plane. Now, if you want to know what these guys look like, it's basically like 2 semi-trucks side to side with wings on them. That's how much cargo these guys hold. Once we clear all the paperwork, then we take off to some third world country, flying over the most beautiful terrain you'll ever see. And it usually takes forever to get where we're going. Hell, the plane ride in itself is a pretty incredible journey. Then we've got to unload all the equipment and try and figure out how we're going to get it on a boat that's half the size of the plane. but eventually it all works, and then we start the second leg of our journey. Now the IMAX camera is really cool. It has two lenses that create an invisible focal plane, and it's actually as close to the human eye as anything that's ever been developed. So this thing gives you such a different perspective. But all this isn't without a cost, because this thing is huge and it takes forever just to get it assembled and ready to start shooting. The camera with its housing weighs about 1,200 pounds. Hell, the film reels by themselves weigh over 50 pounds each. When we finally get the camera system in the water, we've got to attach weights in various places on the housing so the buoyancy would be right for shooting. And you got to realize with an underwater camera, you don't want it to be positively buoyant or it's going to be hard to hold on a stable shot. In other words, it's going to float up real easy. And on the other side, if it's too negative, you'll have the reverse of the same problem. It's going to sink. So the buoyancy on it's got to be real critical. But after about a half day of moving the weights back and forth, up and down, eventually we get the thing where it flies just right. Al got to the point where he was feeling real cocky. And he'd been flying the camera around, so he decides that he's going to buzz right by me and get as close as he could. So I'm spread out in a real good shooting position, and here comes Al. And all of a sudden, this big IMAX camera starts getting closer and closer, and then all of a sudden, bam, he runs right into me. Well, that's one of the perils of being an underwater cameraman. Sometimes you get so caught up in the action and you're looking through the lens, you actually forget what's going on around you. But like I said, that's part of the job. Anyway, one of my favorite underwater scenes happened off this tiny little island, and we were filming some big, huge, hungry moray eels. Now the on-camera talent is Carol Baldwin from the Smithsonian, and the script says she's supposed to be gathering some samples when she comes across these seemingly harmless moray eels. Well, for the most part, moray eels are pretty harmless. And this time, for some reason, things just seemed a little bit different. They were just a little bit aggressive. And as Carol would swim by and get close, these moray eels would start attacking this sample bag that she was carrying around. And all of a sudden it became chaos. Eventually Randy Wimberg, Al's second camera, has to swim over and take the bag away from the eels. At that point, Carol decided that she had enough and decides to head to the surface. Well, I could go on and on telling those kind of stories until you run out of film. So like I said earlier, I've had a lifetime of adventure in and around the ocean. And when people ask me, I just tell them that that part of my life's over. It's like a book and I've closed it. But I've started writing a new book this time. And I know that it's going to be just as full of adventure as the last one was, except this one's going to be on dry land. Not too much different, but the bottom line is I'm back home. I'm back in the mountains of East Tennessee where I really feel like I should be anyway. So cross your fingers and hope that nothing else bad happens to me. I'm looking forward to doing as many exciting things as I can, and hopefully I'll be sharing them with a lot of people. What more can a guy ask for?